Welcome back to my channel. Celeb Buzz, please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. James Stewart tells about the secret love that broke Ginger Rogers' marriage. James Stewart was born on May 20th, 1908 in Indiana, Pennsylvania. He grew up in a small town with his family. Stewart was the oldest of 3 kids in a religious family. His dad owned a hardware store and wanted young Jimmy to run the family business someday, but life had much bigger plans for him. At first, he wanted to be an architect, but Stewart's quiet charm, special voice, and strong moral character would make him a Hollywood star and a symbol of what good Americans should be like for many years. He went to Princeton University, where he got a degree in architecture. Stewart also acted in plays during his college years. After he finished school in 1932, during the Great Depression, there weren't many jobs for architects. His friend and fellow actor Henry Fonda told him to move to New York City to try acting. He got stage roles with theater groups and on Broadway. His natural acting style and soft voice were different from other actors who were more dramatic back then. James Stewart started making movies in 1935 with a small part in The Murder Man. People quickly noticed how real and easy to relate to he was. By the late 1930s, he had signed with MGM Studios and was in many movies that made him famous as the honest everyday hero. His acting in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 1939, directed by Frank Capra, got him his first Academy Award nomination. It also made people see him as someone who fights for what's right in a bad world. He played this role so well that people thought he was really like that in real life. Stewart's talent reached its peak when he won his first and only Academy Award for Best Actor in The Philadelphia Story in 1940. He acted with Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. Just when his career was getting really successful, World War II started. Stewart loved America and put his acting on hold to join the United States Army Air Forces. He became the first big American movie star to wear a military uniform in the war. Unlike some other famous people who took easy jobs, Stewart really served with honor. He flew 20 dangerous missions over areas controlled by the Nazis and eventually became a brigadier general in the Air Force Reserve. His bravery and humble attitude during his service earned him the Distinguished Flying Cross and many other military awards. After the war, Stewart came back to Hollywood completely changed by what he had been through. He chose harder and more emotional roles, often playing men dealing with trauma, moral confusion, or inner struggles. His work after the war with director Alfred Hitchcock in movies like Rear Window in 1954, Vertigo in 1958, and The Man Who Knew Too Much in 1956 showed Stewart's range and made his legacy even stronger. In Vertigo especially, he gave one of his most haunting and vulnerable performances, showing layers of obsession, fear, and psychological complexity that people rarely saw in his earlier work. Maybe his most loved role came in Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life in 1946. This movie didn't do well at first, but later became a beloved holiday classic. Stewart's playing of George Bailey, a selfless man who gives up his dreams for the good of others, touched audiences deeply. It remains one of the most famous performances in movie history. The film captured Stewart's unique ability to show kindness, humility, and strength when facing hard times. Throughout his amazing career, Stewart worked with some of the greatest directors and actors of his time, including John Ford, Billy Wilder, Anthony Mann, and Grace Kelly. He is a versatile actor who was great in many different types of movies, from romantic comedies and thrillers to westerns and war dramas. His performances always showed deep emotional honesty, a rare ability to connect with audiences on a human level, and a commitment to doing what's right. Over his career, James Stewart appeared in more than 80 films and received many honors, including 5 Academy Award nominations and an honorary Oscar in 1985. For his lifetime contributions to movies. He also got the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1985, one of the nation's highest civilian honors. This showed his cultural and moral impact. In 1942, during his distinguished service in the United States Army Air Forces in the middle of World War II, James Stewart was stationed in California. He often spent time at the Hollywood Canteen, a volunteer-run club that gave food, entertainment, and dancing for servicemen. It was here, amid the friendship and wartime patriotism, that Stewart met popular singer and radio star Dinah Shore. Shore, known for her warm, engaging personality and beautiful voice, was volunteering to support the troops and lift their spirits. Stewart, tall, shy, and already well known as an actor, was charmed by her. Their meeting started a romantic relationship that quickly grew deeper despite the pressures and uncertainties of wartime. The couple enjoyed a close bond and were seen together often, both in private and at public events that celebrated morale and unity during a time of global conflict. By 1943, their relationship had grown serious enough that they talked about marriage. Reports went around that they had made plans to elope to Las Vegas, which was then a quiet desert town where sudden celebrity marriages were not uncommon. However, when they were on their way to the ceremony, Stewart suddenly called it off, admitting he had cold feet. He later said he was overwhelmed by uncertainty and doubt, possibly influenced by the weight of war, the demands of his military career, and his own shy nature. The breakup was friendly, though sad, and both moved on with their lives. Dinah Shore would go on to marry tennis star George Montgomery in 1943, while Stewart continued to serve with distinction in the European theater of war, earning many commendations. After returning from the war, Stewart resumed his acting career and began working on The Stratton Story in 1949, a biographical sports drama about a baseball player who returns to the game after losing a leg. During this period, he became romantically linked to actress Mona Dell, a glamorous starlet who had appeared in many B movies and noir films. Gossip columnists of the time loved speculating about a possible engagement between the two. Dell, however, later denied the rumors, clarifying that while they had indeed spent time together, there were no serious marriage plans. The press, always eager for a Hollywood wedding, had exaggerated the nature of their relationship. Stewart, still finding his footing in post-war Hollywood, appeared reluctant to settle down, though his yearning for a stable family life was growing. Stewart's life took a meaningful turn in December 1947 when he attended a Christmas party hosted by actor Keenan Wynn. Uninvited and reportedly having drunk a bit too much, Stewart made a somewhat awkward and less than flattering first impression on a woman named Gloria Hattrick McLean. Gloria, a sophisticated and poised former model with classic beauty, had been previously married and was already the mother of 2 young sons. Despite the bad start, fate stepped in once more a year later in 1948 when Stewart was invited to a dinner party hosted by fellow actor Gary Cooper and his wife Veronica. This time, both he and Gloria were in better circumstances, and their conversation blossomed into a deep connection. Their courtship was quiet but affectionate, and it became clear that Stewart had found someone who brought stability, intelligence, and warmth to his life. Gloria's experience as a mother and a divorcee gave her a mature perspective, and her quiet strength and humor complemented Stewart's reserved demeanor. They married on August 9th, 1949, in a small, elegant ceremony at Brentwood Presbyterian Church in Los Angeles. The wedding was attended by close friends and family, and the couple soon became one of Hollywood's most admired and enduring partnerships. Their marriage would last 45 years until Gloria's death in 1994, a rare feat in the often tumultuous world of show business. In 1951, James and Gloria Stewart purchased a stately white brick home in the exclusive Beverly Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles. Surrounded by well-manicured gardens and shaded by tall trees, the residence became their cherished family haven. It was a peaceful retreat from the public eye, a place where Stewart could enjoy the simple joys of fatherhood and Gloria could host intimate gatherings with friends. The couple also acquired the Wine Cup Gamble Ranch, a sprawling and remote property in northeastern Nevada, which they owned from 1953 to 1957. Stewart loved the wide open spaces, and the ranch allowed him to indulge in his passion for horseback riding, hunting, and enjoying the natural beauty of the American West. James Stewart adopted Gloria's 2 sons from her previous marriage, Ronald and Michael. Ronald, born in 1944, and Michael, born in 1946, were raised by Stewart as his own, and he took great pride in being their father. The Stewarts expanded their family further on May 7th, 1951, when Gloria gave birth to twin daughters Judy and Kelly. The home was filled with laughter, books, music, and a sense of tradition and discipline. Stewart, while often away on film sets, was deeply involved in his children's lives and was known to be a loving, if somewhat strict, father. One of the family experienced great tragedy in 1969 when Ronald, then serving as a Marine Corps lieutenant during the Vietnam War, was killed in action on June 8th. He was only 24 years old. The loss devastated Stewart, who was both heartbroken and quietly proud of his son's service. Ronald's death profoundly affected the entire family and deepened Stewart's already strong support for the armed forces. He rarely spoke publicly about the loss, but it was a wound that never fully healed. For decades, rumors had quietly circulated in Hollywood's golden circles about a discreet but devastating romantic entanglement between James Stewart and the iconic dancer and actress Ginger Rogers. Both were towering figures in the film industry during the 1930s and 1940s. Rogers, known for her graceful, effervescent performances opposite Fred Astaire, and Stewart for his earnest all-American screen presence, the two stars moved in similar social circles, often attending the same studio events, private parties, and high-profile functions. Although the public only saw carefully crafted smiles and polite interactions, behind the scenes a more intimate story was unfolding, one that Stewart himself would later acknowledge as deeply consequential, not only to his own life, but also to the emotional ruin of Ginger Rogers' marriage. According to Stewart's later reflections, shared in a rare interview years after both he and Rogers had long since faded from the limelight, their relationship began innocently enough. They had been paired together at several publicity events by RKO and MGM, with studio executives hoping to capitalize on their chemistry. Over time, what started as professional admiration and friendship grew into a deeper emotional connection. Stewart, who was known for being modest, disciplined, and emotionally reserved, found in Rogers a radiant confidence and quick wit that fascinated him. She, in turn, was reportedly charmed by Stewart's quiet strength, integrity, and the gentleness he carried both on screen and off. They began seeing each other more frequently in private, away from the scrutinizing eyes of the public and the press. The affair, however, became increasingly complicated when it interfered with Ginger Rogers' marriage to actor Lew Ayres. At the time, Rogers and Ayres were navigating their own difficulties. Both were ambitious and intensely driven, spending long periods apart due to their filming schedules. While their marriage initially sparkled with glamour and the shared excitement of Hollywood success, it began to fray under the pressures of career obligations and personal frustrations. When Rogers grew closer to Stewart, it added fuel to an already volatile emotional situation. Though Stewart never intended to come between a married couple, he later admitted that he could not deny the feelings he developed for Rogers. "We were caught in something bigger than ourselves," he once said. "It wasn't planned, but it wasn't fleeting either." As whispers of their closeness started to reach the Hollywood gossip mill, Ayres reportedly confronted Rogers about the nature of her relationship with Stewart. While there was never a public scandal or an official acknowledgement of infidelity, those close to the trio claimed that Ayres felt betrayed and increasingly alienated. The tension eventually led to the collapse of the marriage. In 1940, Ginger Rogers and Louis Ayres divorced, and while the official reason was cited as irreconcilable differences, insiders believe that the emotional bond between Rogers and Stewart played a key role in the split. The end of the marriage sent shockwaves through the entertainment community, which had idealized the couple as a picture-perfect pairing. Interestingly, Stewart did not end up with Rogers either. Though their affair had burned brightly for a time, it faded in the aftermath of the divorce, overwhelmed by guilt, conflicting schedules, and the intense scrutiny they both faced. Stewart would go on to marry Gloria Hattrick McLean in 1949, a union that would last until her death in 1994. Ginger Rogers, for her part, would marry several more times, but never again found the same blend of affection and compatibility she had once shared with Stewart. When asked later in life about his regrets, Stewart was uncharacteristically candid. "There were choices I made that hurt people. That's something I'll always carry with me." In revealing the full extent of his involvement with Ginger Rogers, Stewart shattered decades of carefully maintained Hollywood illusions. The confession didn't come from a place of vanity or sensationalism, but rather a quiet sense of responsibility. For fans who had always viewed Stewart as the embodiment of decency and restraint, the revelation was both shocking and humanizing. It served as a poignant reminder that even the most revered icons of cinema were in the end imperfect people capable of deep love, personal error, and enduring remorse. The affair may have remained hidden in the shadows for years, but once it came to light, it offered a bittersweet glimpse into the tangled emotional lives behind the golden glow of the silver screen. The final years of James Stewart's remarkable life were marked by profound sorrow, quiet withdrawal, and a poignant farewell that echoed the dignity with which he had lived. On February 16th, 1994, tragedy struck when his beloved wife, Gloria Hattrick Stewart, passed away from lung cancer at the age of 75. Their marriage had spanned over 4 decades, a rare and steadfast bond in Hollywood, and her death left an unmistakable void in Stewart's life. According to his biographer, Donald Dewey, Stewart was deeply affected, describing the iconic actor as depressed and lost at sea. The emotional blow of losing his life partner left Stewart adrift, and he began to retreat from the world that had once adored him. Once a vibrant figure in American cinema and a frequent presence at Hollywood events, Stewart gradually disappeared from public view. He became increasingly reclusive, spending much of his time in the quiet solitude of his bedroom, leaving only occasionally to eat meals or spend brief moments with his children. The media, fans, and even close friends found themselves gently pushed away as Stewart closed the final curtain on the public stage of his life. Some observers assumed he had fallen into a deep depression. However, Close friends, such as Leonard Gershie and fellow actor Gregory Peck, offered a different perspective. They believed Stewart wasn't consumed by sadness, but rather had finally found a rare and long overdue peace. After a life lived in the spotlight in service to both his country and his craft, Stewart was finally allowing himself to rest quietly and on his own terms. His physical health also began to decline. In December 1995, Stewart suffered a fall that required hospitalization. A year later, in December 1996, he was advised to undergo a routine battery replacement for his pacemaker. In a quiet but telling decision, Stewart declined the procedure. By February 1997, he was again hospitalized, this time for an irregular heartbeat, a harbinger of what was to come. Then on June 25th, 1997, a blood clot formed in his right leg, which led to a pulmonary embolism. Just 1 week later, on July 2nd, 1997, the nation lost one of its most cherished icons when James Stewart died of a heart attack at the age of 89. He passed away peacefully at his home in Beverly Hills, surrounded by his children, leaving behind a legacy that transcended film and resonated deeply with generations of Americans.